G'day guys, welcome back to Machete Bushcraft Australia. My name is Ben and I'm the owner of North Arm Machete Co. And today's topic is going to be strop making and basically, look, why buy one when you can make one? But just like last time, I'm going to do 3 videos nice and quickly. The first one's going to be strop making, which is this one. The second one is I want to talk about a new machete that I have just finished up. It's one advantage of owning a machete shop is I'm the primary tester. But one thing that's probably most important about this machete that's appropriate to all machete users is the handle and a half, or the extra long handle that's on here. This is really set up as a crafting machete because it has its advantage of the weight being further down the other end. I'm going to talk a lot more about this in the next video. It's a very blingy machete. It's definitely not one that I would typically use for myself, but I needed to test it, and yeah, this is going to be a fun machete to use. Now the third video is I want to quickly do a video on safety. There's not too much, I haven't really found any great information out there on safety with machetes, particularly for Westerners. There's an awful lot of information out there if you're involved in these sort of rural communities in the developing nations, particularly because that information's passed down through the generations, but we don't really have that here in Australia or the rest of the Western world. So I just wanted to cover a little bit more information on that. I'm definitely not the authority on the safety of machetes, but I've still got all my fingers, and I haven't hit my shin with a machete yet. And I'm really quite happy to share that information with everyone. But if anyone's got or knows of like a manual somewhere, or a really good safety instructional video on using machetes, can you send me a link down below? I'd love to see it, and if I find something good, I'll happily share it with you guys. But that'll be the third video. Now today's video is going to be strop making. Now, look, one of the reasons why I say make it, don't buy it, is because they are so easy to make, and there's so many different materials that you can use to make them, and you can make them suit how you want to use them. First and foremost, most people are going to decide whether they like a flat strop, which is just these rigid ones. There's another smaller one, it's a paddle strop, or slack, which is going to be like your traditional barber style strop. But I do get quite a lot of questions about this backpack strop, which I make and use. Really enjoy using this particular one here. So that's your first decision. It's going to be flat versus slack. There's great pros and cons for both. You get to pick which ones you like. Material choices, this is where it gets a little bit more interesting. Most people, everyone knows about using leather as a stropping material. Look, leather's fantastic. I'm not, putting leather down, but it's definitely nothing magical about using leather as a strop material. You can use cork. Cork's another one of my favorites. Balsa wood, that's another really good one if you want like a rigid strop. You can use cotton, linen. You can use pine, hardwood, MDF, that's another really common one as well. So look, there's lots of choices you can have when it comes with the natural materials, but one question that was posed to me by a guy called Larry Koziol from Colorado in America, who his family actually watch my channel, which is fantastic. G'day mate, and hello to the family. He asked if can you use a synthetic material, because he was having trouble finding this canvas, or a really lightweight canvas binding tape, I think it might actually be called. And look, I didn't know, so I thought I'd test it. I'm really surprised. Synthetic ribbons and synthetic webbing actually works really well as a strop material. It's a little bit different, and there's some tricks to actually getting it to work very well. And I'll talk about that at the end when I talk about making synthetic strops. But I tell you what, this particular ribbon that I've got here, and it's a super cheap bit of ribbon, if I only had to strop a knife out in the bush rather than a machete, I'd be picking this over a canvas one. I really like it. Super lightweight, definitely has its advantages, but it's a little bit different. So the other thing I want to talk about as well, I'm not 100% across exactly what this material is, so I'm going to take a good close-up photo of these 3 types of stropping material. And hopefully someone like in the industry might actually know the difference between these 3, or what they're actually called. So if someone else wants to buy it, at least they can know what to order or what to ask for. So I'll put a close-up up. Anyone's got any info, please put it down below. Now we've got basic steps. Look, it's really, it's so simple to actually make a strop, so I'm going to really gloss over this nice and quick. But when it comes to a slack belt strop, one of the things I like to do is I want to keep them flat, and the very first step with that is don't tie it into a knot. You actually probably need to stitch it, and the way I do that, very simply, is that I taper it before I stitch it. So I just bring the 2 halves together, this becomes my first stitch line because I just want to pinch those 2 points. I'll drop the keyring on, fold it over, and that becomes my second stitch. And that has the advantage of when you pull this strop really tight, you will find that it actually lays flat. It's probably better, I'll actually take a photo and put a close-up of that up. Now, that's probably, when it comes to making the strop, it's simple. It's like cut, stitch, the next step is conditioning. You only ever really need to do this once for the lifetime of the strop. When it comes to natural materials, one of the first things you do is you condition it with a wax. I like beeswax, but absolutely paraffin works very well. And all you're actually doing is you stretch this out, and you get your beeswax in a block or a candle and you rub it into the material, and you can heat it up with the palm of your hand to make it nice and flat, or you can use a hair dryer, which obviously I don't have one. Use a hair dryer just to melt that wax in a little bit, and you can again use the palm of your hand to rub that in. Got to be really careful, guys, because hot wax can scald you, so obviously don't heat that up too much. It doesn't need to be super hot. And you repeat that about 4 or 5 times until you got like a good layer of wax on that material. Obviously not too thick. You just want it to soak in a little bit and create a slick surface across the face of it, which will actually accept the stropping compound quite nicely. Now the second step, you only need to do this again once through the lifetime of this strop, is you put a good layer of your stropping compound on that surface. It's a matter of just treat it like a crayon. And you just want to colour in all the bits that aren't actually they haven't actually got a good layer of compound on them. You just keep rubbing it in. And after that's done, that's pretty much the conditioning process. And that's the bit that tends to confuse most people, how to condition a strop. That's finished. That surface will be good for about 3 or 4 sharpenings. And when you want to rejuvenate this strop, again, you don't need to put too much of this compound. Less is more, actually. You're going to swipe it once, twice, 3 times down the length of the strop. And that surface again will be good for about 2 or 3 sharpens. You can use this stuff very sparingly. Just the first time when you use a strop, you build up a really good layer on it. Now the difference between using a synthetic material and a natural material with a strop, and I don't know why this actually happens, but when you treat a synthetic strop the same way with a wax and then apply your compound, for some reason it becomes really sticky, and I couldn't quite work it out. And it's okay for people who are quick with stropping, because it won't actually grab as much. You can actually still slide it across the surface. But if you're a beginner stropping, stropping on anything, you're probably going to be moving a bit slower. And what you'll actually find is that it actually shudders as you're drawing that knife or that edge on the strop. And the only way of getting around that is to move quickly. I actually found that the strop actually works, synthetic strops work better without the conditioning wax. So I'd put the compound directly onto the strop surface. It performs quite nicely. It's got a little bit of grab, which is what you want, but definitely if you're using a synthetic strop, skip the beeswax and the paraffin. Well, I found it very helpful anyway. Now the second problem I found with synthetic strops is that, this particular material, which I really like, it's actually got a reinforced edge. And what that means is that when you pull this nice and tight, and you draw your edge across that strop, it's actually going to be contacting the 2 outer edges because they're thicker. And the way around that is that don't do the fancy stitching method I did with the keyrings in the other one. I actually just tied that in a knot, and what that actually does is it bunches it up with a crest in the center. And I'll be doing the same on the other side. The advantage of that is that when you pull this strop nice and tight, it actually, the center becomes a bit proud, or there's a crest in that strop, which presents the center part of the strop forward. This means that when you start stropping, the edge is actually going to be contacting across the whole width of the strop. So that's tip number 2 when it comes to using synthetic strops. Now, the other question I always get asked as well is these little mini stropping crayons and where you buy them. And the truth is you don't actually buy them, you make them. They're really easy. Most stropping compound starts out as a block. This is a particularly big one that was broken in half. You just got to treat this like a regular candle. If you can basically just get a nice clean block, scrape it up with the back of your knife to get a whole pile of chips. You put those chips into a mold, and you can make the mold out of alfoil, any particular shape that you want. And you can use a hot air gun or a hairdryer or a candle to heat all those chips. And basically it's going to melt into a mold. Wait till it cools, break it open, and you've got mini stropping crayons. And the reason why you make them so small is because that realistically is years worth of stropping compound when you're out camping. You actually don't need much of this. There's no point in carrying a big block, obviously, when you're camping. And you can make it to fit any size. So if you have a particular size container or a particular size pouch, you can just make your little crayons to suit. Really easy to do. Now, as far as, I think I might have covered everything, and I want to keep this nice and short. I'm already at 10 minutes. Thanks very much for watching. If you guys want to know a little bit more about how to use these strops, or how I use these strops out in the bush, particularly this slack belt canvas strop, check out my 2 previous sharpening videos. I think I've got one, it's pro sharpening for beginners, and I actually use, I talk quite a lot about using this particular strop here. Definitely my favorite. It's so easy to make. I mean, look, I had everything on hand. There's probably about 20 cents worth of materials realistically in this to make this strop. But I'll run you through basically getting a proper carving sharp edge using really minimal equipment. And it's a method that just about anyone can learn. And if you're a beginner and you're struggling to get that really hair-popping edge, take a look at that video. So look, until next time, which is I'm going to show off this blingy machete a little bit more. I'll see you then, guys. Thanks very much.